Good morning, Sense of Things. It's Jeff and Ron here once again with another episode of The Sense of Things. And on today's show, we're going to talk a little bit about company earnings and profitability. We're going to talk a little bit about the markets. We're also going to talk about the Fear and Greed Index. We're going to come back to that one again. And we're going to talk about the price of gold, which we have a little bone of contention between us sometimes when it comes to that. And last but not least, we're going to discuss our friends in China and their new AI tool and how it has compared through a study when it came to the stock market with ChatGPT. So hold on, we'll be right back here in just 1 second. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Hey Ron, how you doing, my friend?
Good morning, doing well. Never a dull day in the market with news and political and international stuff and technology and all that good stuff. So
It's
I'm looking forward to
amazing.
kicking this conversation
I
off.
was laughing this morning watching the news when I got up, and I'm like, the president has been in office for exactly 1 month, and all the crap that's happened and been done in that time period is just outlandish. So,
Yeah, some you can understand, other stuff I'm not really sure, but
yeah.
look, he's got a defined amount of time and he's trying to basically squeeze the golf ball through the garden hose.
Yeah, I think the other part is kind of leading. A lot of this has to be done in the Congress. The president can't be the only one doing it, but at least leading from the front when it comes to that. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out with the markets and the economy and everything else. But I do like to see money cut from the budget or cut from
Absolutely.
agencies that are wasting my
Especially
money.
waste and abuse.
Oh, it's just it infuriates me every day when I see it. But you've got some fun stuff, so let's start with that.
I do. I saw this a few weeks ago, and I'm like, maybe this might be something good to bring up at some point. And with the weather, it hit 80 out here a couple weeks ago. We're supposed to have a gorgeous weekend, 83, 85 this weekend.
It's
But I had to
18
pare
here
this
in
down.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I
18.
had to pare this down because there was probably three times the amount of things that you're in Arizona. So I'm going to knock through these pretty quick. Some of them I'll explain, others are self-explanatory. So you see, this is during the summer. Two trees fighting over a dog in the summer. Need a little bit of a spritz.
Yes.
No one would dream of putting vinyl inside a car.
That is exactly right. My
I did
favorite,
not
yeah,
know this one,
my
but hot
favorite
air balloons can't rise because the air temperature is hotter than
in
the air inside the
the
balloon.
blue.
And we're right in hot air balloon season. It's beautiful on the weekend. Sometimes you can see a dozen, 2 dozen balloons in the air. It's beautiful.
It's my favorite of all time. The Arizona native Gary Shanling, who put it because I grew up in Arizona, and he said that people always say, "Oh, but it's a dry heat," and he goes, "Yeah, so's an effing blowtorch, but I don't want to put my face in that either."
There are some afternoons in the summer, yes, it feels like dragon breath and a blowtorch, no doubt about it. All right, you can understand the reason for a town named Y, and I had to look it up. There is one, it's west of Tucson.
Yeah. Okay. So this was
Some,
as the settlers were coming across, they just stopped and went, "Why are we here?"
exactly. I'd like to go there just to see.
Yeah, just to see how and why.
Sunscreen is sold year-round and kept at the checkout counter.
There
That
you
is
go.
true if you go into a Walmart or a CVS. You take rain dances seriously. We just had a sprinkle of rain here this past weekend, and it had been like 2 months since we had rain. But
Yeah.
look, the trees and plants are survivors. They know how
Yeah.
to survive in this stuff.
When does your monsoon season start?
Oh, that's not until late summer. I think it's July, August, and parts of September. Oh,
Which
yeah. And let me tell you, when it rains,
it rains.
God tells you it's raining, baby. You can't, I've taken pictures of just water coming off the roof of my house. You can't even see literally 5 feet in front of you. It is just
Wow.
coming down.
Which you would never think in July and August. And here in Texas, if we get a drop of rain during July and August, it's like yeah, that's amazing for
But
us.
here's the whole thing. It's if it rained a little bit every day, it wouldn't be so bad, but it
Yeah.
just accumulates, it packs, stacks up, and then
Mhm.
boom,
Boom.
baby, comes down like a waterfall. All right. You know better than to get into, oh, sorry, a car with leather seats if you're wearing shorts in the summer. Now, I think that's true everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. I didn't hear about this until I came out here. A swamp cooler is not a happy hour drink. You know what
Nope.
a swamp cooler is?
I know precisely what it is.
I never
It's the
heard of one, and then a
world's
lot of
simplest air
older
conditioner.
houses had this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the world's simplest air conditioner. It's the first air
Exactly.
conditioner and just using air blowing over water, which creates that. Now, what it also creates, though, is Legionnaire's disease that can kill you.
But I thought it was interesting because if you think about it, like why Phoenix has, and Scottsdale and Arizona in general, has grown so much in the last 50 to 60 years. And I try and tell people air conditioning,
Yeah.
that's one of the big things. But before that, they had these swamp coolers.
Yeah, probably the area that popularized them at the beginning.
Maybe. Petrified doesn't mean scared. And people that don't know what petrified means, that refers to like trees and wood, petrified wood. Anyway. In the summer, the temperature drops below 95 and you feel a bit chilly.
Yep.
This is absolutely true because your body temperature goes up, and when it happens to drop, all of a sudden, what's going on? What's the temperature? And it's
Yeah.
98 degrees. It gets crazy.
Yeah, I always wait for the temperature here, and in the fall and spring in Texas, it gets to about 72 degrees, and that's the perfect time when you like walk from the inside to the outside and you don't notice a difference.
Yeah, it is. But here's the funny thing. The pool temperature is 95. The
Yeah,
outside temp is 105, 110, and
yeah,
the pool feels like an ice cube.
yeah. I
All
don't know
right.
about that, but
You actually burn your hand opening the car during the summers. This can be true also.
this is
Uh,
why you should have a Tesla.
you notice your car overheating before you drive it. Can't happen. You realize that Valley Fever isn't a disco dance. And just to let people know, the Phoenix metro area is known as the Valley.
Okay.
Your best part, I love this one. Your best parking spot is determined by shade, not distance. So you have a parking lot that's got a little island with trees on it, and it's 50 yards away from the main door, and you just see cars parked around that.
Circled around it. Just even if you can get just a little bit of shade on your car.
Exactly. You could be in the snow, then drive for an hour, and it'll be over 100 degrees. This is
Mhm.
true, and I try to explain to people in Phoenix that there's actually something called ski and surf shops here, and people don't believe me because you can go up to Flagstaff and Grand Canyon.
Sure.
It's not great skiing, but you could go skiing and then come
Snow.
back and do some water sports.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. It's like California too.
You no longer associate bridges and rivers with water. I love this because growing up in the Mid-Atlantic in Philly, Jersey, and New York and Delaware, yeah, all you got are bridges and tolls
Mhm.
and whatever. Here, you got lakes, but you don't have bridges over them.
Yeah, and you've got little dry arroyos with
Yep. And this is
nothing in them but
probably my favorite because, in a way, it frustrates me because I'm old school when I come to work and how I dress and when I want to meet with clients. You could attend almost any function in Arizona wearing shorts and a tank top.
there you go. That was the big change of pace for me coming from Dallas down to Austin. You know, when I was in Dallas, you wore a suit as a financial advisor, you wore a suit and tie every day,
100%.
regardless if it was 1,000 degrees outside. Moved down to Austin and I'm wearing a sweater and jeans today, and this is dressy. And I shift into like golf clothes mode during the summertime because my clients come in less dressed than I am.
When I do wear a jacket and tie, this hasn't happened as often. Every now and then you get somebody coming up looking at you like you stick if you wear a jacket and tie, you stick out like a sore
Oh,
thumb.
sure. Yeah.
Number two, they think you're a lawyer. And
Yeah.
I've actually had somebody come up to me and ask me, "Hey, listen, can I ask you a legal question?" I don't even know who the hell I am. They don't even know my name. I'm like, you can ask me.
I can't promise I'm gonna be able to answer it.
I might not be able to give you the right answer, but all right. Anyway, so you're. By the way, I had to pare this down from like over 100 different things. These are the
Awesome.
better ones that I could relate to.
I'll have to do
All
a Texas version of it.
I hear you. All right. Next, I love this. Visual Capitalist, I love. They got some good stuff. So this goes back 35 years, but this goes back to who's holding the U.S. wealth.
Okay.
And the top 1% owns basically half of our wealth. Yeah, I know we've heard other things like 80% is by people over 55 or
Mm.
whatever it may be. But I thought this was interesting that the bottom half has been shrinking. And I think, my opinion, the number one reason why they don't own real estate and they don't
Yeah.
have money they don't have money in the stock
They don't have
market.
money in the
They don't
stock.
have,
Yeah,
they're not
investing.
saving.
Yep.
They're
Yeah.
spending probably beyond the means, but if they had money in real estate or in the stock market, those are the two things that appreciate in value.
And we've been talking about the credit card balances and stuff like that. I can guarantee you almost 90, I would say probably 70% of that is held by the bottom 50%.
I would love someone to do a study that takes the interest that's being paid on the credit card balances, and what if they, meaning the people that have the credit card balances, had put just what they paid in interest into the stock market over years? What would that have accumulated to versus going to the banks and the credit card companies?
Yeah.
All right, one more. So another visual capitalist one. I thought this was terrific. Industries with the highest profit margins, and you would think with the amount of reduction in people smoking
Mm.
that, I don't know, margins would be cut in tobacco, but tobacco still has the highest profit margin. Entertainment software I thought was interesting. I'm not really sure what that is. They say Meta and Alphabet. I don't know how Alphabet, other than Google TV and YouTube, are entertainment software, but okay.
Yeah.
Retail REITs? Really?
That's
I don't
amazing.
know.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they do have profits, but I don't think of REITs really from a profit standpoint because they kick off basically all their earnings to, or the vast majority of their earnings. But yeah, that's interesting. And especially, I would say REITs right now, retail REITs in this last 5 to 7 years, where so much retail has gone out of business, that is shocking to me that they're that
Yep.
high.
Yep. And I thought the other one was the semiconductors, which obviously is NVIDIA and Broadcom, the two big
Yeah.
boys. They're 20%. Now, I think 20% is the average. We know NVIDIA and Broadcom has a much higher profit
Mm.
margin. So I thought this was
Yeah.
interesting. People could
That's
pause the
awesome.
podcast and look at this, but this also should tell you maybe where you should invest your money. I'm not putting it into tobacco
Yeah.
because they're getting increasing share of a shrinking market. I think this is a good thing to look at when you want to invest money. You want to put it in where people have the highest amount of profit.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and you look at the big boy there is Philip Morris, and Philip Morris is peeling off like a 7.5, 8% dividend every year, and it's
yeah,
rising. So there's
Altria,
Altria,
their
yeah,
offshoot. Yeah.
yeah, and just pounding that money right back to the shareholder. So yeah, I look at it the same way. It's okay. I'm not a big fan of investing in the industry, but you can't fault it for the figuring out a way to make a profit constantly. So let me share my screen here and talk about our good old friend, the Fear and Greed Index. We haven't addressed that in a few
Yeah.
months. So I figured let's go in and see how she's doing. And if we are to look at it, here we are. And if you want to know where this is, it's actually on CNN. Just search by Fear and Greed Index. But right now we're neutral. And it's interesting because the market's been on a rise for the last month and a half for this year. We started off with a really good year, but the market's kind of neutral on all that. And I think part of that is some uncertainty when it comes to the conflicts around the world, the tariff
Tariffs.
situation, all of that stuff. And they're hanging around that neutral range. They don't know what to think. And if you look a month ago, it was fear, which I think was coming out of that November to December period of time where the markets were really down quite a bit. Looking a year ago, we were in greed mode. So it's interesting to see where things are going. Market momentum is still up, even though things are neutral. The next thing I wanted to look at is gold. This is an interesting animal because usually when the stock market does well, gold doesn't necessarily do well. But what's been happening here, I would say, over the last 6 to 8 months, from what I've been watching, the market has been going up and gold's kind of been going up alongside of it, which is a little bit weird. We had a really nice run for quite a while in the fall. Then the election hit and wow, it got crushed. And then it's been on a little bit of a rise up for the last 6 months here. Interesting. I think part of that, I don't know what your take is on it, Ron. I still think it's the same thing with the fear and greed, uncertainty around the Ukraine conflict and how that's going to be resolved and how much money we're going to spend. And I think the tariff issue here is another piece of it.
Yeah, I've never been a gold bug. Not that gold bug isn't a gold isn't an asset or whatever. But a lot of clients ask me about it. And like, look,
Yeah.
if you want to put a little into it, that's great. I said, number one, I cannot determine valuation on gold. I don't know how much
Yeah.
has been mined. I don't know how much is still in the ground. And here's the other thing, for pre-retirees or retirees, it doesn't pay a dividend.
Nope.
It's not something where you want to put a bulk of money into it, but people ask me, where do you think gold is going? I just shrug. I have no idea, but
Yeah.
you're right. It is a fear thing, right? It is absolutely a fear issue why people will go there. I don't understand Bitcoin, and we're not going to get into that. But you're absolutely correct. It's a lot of the uncertainty around the world. And the last big thing is the thing with the tariffs, we always knew that was initially a threat, right? To
Yeah.
use as a threat. But the problem is we don't know if any of them are going to be carried out. We don't
Mm-hmm.
know where the negotiation is going to go. And oh, by the way, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to
No.
take at least another 3 to 6 months maybe to get a handle on it. But even after you get a handle on it, we still don't know the impact of it because typically it takes 6 to 12 months to see any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you going to see revenue out of it? Is it going to slow the markets down? Is it going to raise prices? We don't know at this point. And you have so many economists that are speculating on it. And honestly, we haven't seen, if the president were to go through on all this stuff, we haven't seen this level of tariffs since the late 1890s. I'm reading a book by Bill O'Reilly right now called Confronting the Presidents. And it's running through, it basically goes through every single president up to Biden, or actually through Obama. So it doesn't include Trump or Biden in there, but it's an interesting book because it's little short, like three to 5 page chapters on each president, and it's interesting to see like during those times where tariffs were like a normal thing back in
Yeah.
those time periods because we didn't have any kind of an income tax or anything like that. So that was something that came in during the World War II period of time when under Wilson, that's where tariffs were peeled off and they created an income tax as a result of it.
Yeah.
But
World War I, Wilson.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Last but not least, I wanted to cover a little bit. This is interesting. I found this on Market Watch this morning. There's like 3 or 4 Chinese universities and the University of St. Louis, if I remember correctly, here in the States, that did a paper together on ChatGPT versus DeepSeek. So if you don't know much about the whole conspiracy of DeepSeek and all this, DeepSeek is a Chinese AI startup, basically, that was created by a hedge fund. And they claim that they were able to create this amazing AI tool with old NVIDIA chips and about $5 million, which I can clearly tell you is complete BS.
Absolutely.
And they did a test in this paper on ChatGPT versus DeepSeek and its ability to predict stock market returns. Now, this isn't by charting and all that kind of stuff. What they did is they had each of them look at the period from 1996 to 2022 and analyze articles, positive articles during all different market activities. And they found that ChatGPT was much stronger at its ability to predict that. Now, does that mean that you can use ChatGPT to predict the markets? No, not by any means. But
Nor
it
would
was
you ever.
interesting. Yeah, nor would you ever. It can be used. I use it. I use a portion of that to analyze data for the trades I make on a monthly basis, but I don't use it. Just punch a button and say, "Tell me what to do." But it just shows that, yeah, DeepSeek is, yes, it's the new hot thing, but it's still not there. And I would, as a very virulent AI user, I can tell you chat and something that is made here in the United States is far stronger than pretty much anything else that's out there, including Google, which Google is probably a year and a half behind where chat is today. So don't worry. And I think, it will continue to get better. And I think DeepSeek is not necessarily going to be able to replicate what they've done up to this point, because they
Agreed.
early used chat to create what they did. So that said, don't feel so bad that we're losing to the Chinese in these cases. I think good stuff for this week, man. The markets are solid again this week. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more solid. Looks like earnings, from my perspective, have been pretty damn good.
Yeah, we're going to run into a choppy period between now and mid to late March
Yeah.
with just the digestion of earnings and everything that's going on in the world. So I think we're going to continue to go sideways
Yeah.
for a good 4 to 6 weeks, and then we'll see what happens going into Q2 and how some of these tariff and other issues things settle out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And I think even in the summer, I think we're going to see a little bit of headwinds this summer coming in, because I think the administration will eventually slow down on all the things that they're doing. They just can't do too many things at one time. And then the market will stop focusing on what the administration's doing and start looking at, okay, the markets again and finding other things to worry about.
Agreed. Agreed.
All right, folks, thank you for joining us. As always, we're here to help you and provide information. So feel free to make comments in wherever you're listening or watching this, and make sure you subscribe to the show. So we'll see you here next week.